This is Brandenburg in 1515. We're the number 6 great power in the world, even though we own so little land. We're running level 2 advisors, and we can run even higher ones if we want to. We're already an empire government reform with all of these cultures promoted and accepted, because we're the HRE emperor, of course. We're allied to a bunch of HRE electors, which means we'll stay an HRE emperor, and Austria and the Ottomans, and we have a bunch of vassals that we diplo-vassalized, so no aggressive expansion. We're making about 17.5 ducats a month, and that's with level 2 advisors, a bunch of forts, no inflation, and very little loans. We're good on every single tech, even ahead of time. We've wrapped up quality, we're wrapping up innovative, and we're ready to take even more military-related idea groups in order to get the most powerful military in the game. We've completed most of the amazing Brandenburg/Prussia mission tree. We have everything we need to form the super powerful militarized nation of Prussia. We're only waiting for Admin Tech 10, and we can flip to Protestant at any time we want to. Our army is already super powerful, and it will become even more powerful in just the next 20 or 30 years, the most powerful army in the world. Our estates are super satisfied with this unique Noble's privilege for minus 10% CCR, and we're ready to go on and dominate the world with the most powerful military it's ever seen. This is how you can do the same. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Brandenburg for EU4 1.37 Winds of Change. So Brandenburg is a nation located in northern Germany right here, and as we all know, it is one of the most popular choices, probably the most popular choice for forming the super powerful and fan favorite nation of Prussia. Now, even though there's lots of other nations that can form Prussia here, most fun other than Brandenburg being the Teutons, I still think Brandenburg is the best choice, especially for newer players, and I do think it is a little bit easier playing as them. Obviously, as Brandenburg, we also start off in the HRE, and we are an elector as well, which means we can pretty easily vote for ourselves and pretty soon become the Holy Roman Emperor. We have an amazing Brandenburg mission tree right here, and later it's going to become even more powerful when we form Prussia, and later on, of course, you could do Germany as well, and Brandenburg ideas are really good. Of course, they'll get even better later on, starting off with minus 15% construction discount and minus 20% cost to fabricate claims, finishing off with minus 25% state maintenance, and in the meantime, we have plus 10% infantry compatibility, plus 10% national attacks, a 10% stab discount, plus 10% morale of armies, plus 1 diplo rep, and plus 0.1 imperial authority growth, which makes Brandenburg a great choice for being the emperor as well, which of course we are gonna do. Minus 2 national rest and plus 5% nobles and burghers loyalty. We also start off with the Margravate tier 1 government reform, which gives us minus 20% fort maintenance and plus 10% fort defense, but later we're going to be getting an even more powerful tier 1 government reform once we form Prussia. As Brandenburg, you will go on to dominate northern Germany, very rapidly conquer all of the provinces in Prussia over here, which is of course going to enable us to form Prussia, and after that we're going to start conquering into Poland, into Bohemia right here, and various other regions in northern Germany, and after that we'll pretty much go on to dominate the entire, greater region of Central Europe right here, and we'll have probably the most powerful army in the world in no time. We're going to be a small nation that's going to punch way above our weight, and no one will be able to stop us. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Brandenburg. Alright, here we are as Brandenburg. Now, some of the first things that are going to happen in our game right here is actually us taking off this mission, Reclaim Neumark, because as many of you will know, a couple of months or a couple of years after the game starts, the Teutons right here will offer to sell us these 2 provinces. And after we get those 2 provinces, we can conquer our way over here, gain a border with the Teutons, and then fight them later on once Poland's truce with the Teutons is up, something pretty important that we need to keep an eye on. But for now, let's go ahead and go over into our estates, summon the Diet, and you can choose whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're going to give the clergy religious state and clerical advisory council, along with religious diplomats and clerical education. Then we're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic councillors. And finally, we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, and commercial advisory board. No indebted to the burghers just yet. We actually don't want to have that many loans before we get these 2 provinces, so we're gonna take this later. Then we can seize land. After that, you can go into your army right here and lower army maintenance and turn off your fort to save a little bit of money. Like I said, we don't want to lose too much money, and we're gonna go into our advisors and hire a diplo rep or improve relations level 1 dip advisor if you have them. If you don't worry about that. I have an improved relations guy, so I am gonna hire him. As we can see, we're still making a little bit of money, so let's go ahead and hire a mill guy as well. Get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I do have this manpower guy, so I am gonna hire him. And since we're still making a little bit of money, and if we hire another advisor, we won't be losing money, go ahead and hire whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. I'm gonna get this yearly inflation reduction guy. And there we go, we're still not losing money, which is something we do want to focus on. Now it's time for some alliances, and the allies I recommend you getting as Brandenburg are of course Poland, because we will need their help in taking down the Teutons, especially in these recent patches where they can get quite a few strong allies. As we all know, they always ally the Livonians, but they could get other strong allies as well. So that's why we're going to go for Poland, we're going to go for Austria, who is of course the current emperor, and we're also going to go for 3 more electors, which aren't going to be Saxony and Bohemia. So you need to try and get with 3 out of 4 of these guys right here. Cologne, Trier, Mainz, and the Palatinate. So those are going to be our 5 alliances for now. Poland, Austria, and 3 electors, and maybe later we can swap to some other ones like the Pope, maybe get another big ally, because we will be breaking our alliance with Poland. So first take a look at Poland right here. You should be able to royal marry them or even ally them right off the bat. I can royal marry them, and after a little bit of improving relations, obviously I'll be able to ally them as well. And let's see, Austria right here, I can't ally them either, so let's royal marry them too, and pretty soon we'll establish alliances with these guys. Once our diplomats right here are back, I'm gonna go ahead and ally 3 electors right here. Something else we need to do immediately is go into the HRE interface down here and click on cast a vote, and we will start voting for ourselves if we aren't already. So look for yourself in this list right here, Brandenburg, and start voting. As we can see, we already are. Pretty soon, our elector allies will start voting for us as well, and either after this first Austrian guy dies, or at the latest after the second Austrian guy dies, we will become the HRE Emperor as Brandenburg. Later on, of course, we will stop being the HRE Emperor because we will be flipping to Protestant to form Prussia, but more on that later. So, now it's time to set up these allies. You may have noticed that we haven't set rivals just yet, and don't worry, we are going to do that, not now though. There we go, only 1 month has ticked by. I have allied 3 electors over here. I'm improving relations with Austria and Poland to be able to ally them, and after you ally a couple of these electors, you will immediately be able to take the mission Imperial Ambition, where we need a bunch of guys to vote for us. It gives us prestige, +1 diplomat, and 25% improved relations for 15 years. Very helpful for the start of the game. And now if you open up the HRE interface, you will notice a couple of those guys voting for you. So let's say right now the Austrian Emperor dies, I am gonna be elected HRE Emperor because I'm voting for myself and these 3 guys are. Even though this little image hasn't changed here, Cologne is actually voting for us. And there we go, after a couple of months of improving with Poland, I can ally them now as well. Some of you will have been able to do this right at the start of the game. Once you've secured all of these alliances, the 3 electors, Austria and Poland, what you want to do right here is immediately start currying favors with Poland and improving relations with them as well. With this 3rd diplomat, you can improve relations with various allies over here. And that's what I'm doing right now. After all of this is set up, what we're waiting for is the Fate of Neumark event, where the Teutons will sell us these 2 provinces. Until then, it's time to chill. If you're a more experienced player, and in that case you don't really need a guide, what you could do during this time is actually get a couple of rivals right here and pop off a humiliation war on some of them or something like that. If you prefer to not do that and just get ready for your next wars, which are going to be pretty important, then you don't have to do that war. And this is precisely the event that we were waiting for, the Fate of Neumark. You have 2 options. The first one is make the Grandmaster a generous offer, we pay 100 ducats, and these 2 provinces go over to us. Or the second option is we reject that. Obviously, there's no way we're going to be rejecting this, so we're going to choose this first option right here, and just like that, these 2 provinces become our cores, and perfect. Now, our game can really start. After that happens, you will be able to take the mission Reclaim Neumark right here, which gives us a permaclaim on these 2 areas right here that Wolgast and Stettin own right at the start of the game. And we do want to take that mission immediately, and there we go, now we have claims on this. And now is when we figure out who we're gonna fight for our first conquest war. Some of you may be doing a humiliation war at this point in the game, but no worry, you have time. And of course, your 2 options for the conquest war are gonna be Wolgast and Stettin right here. Now, ideally, you would fight Wolgast rather than Stettin, because like that, we can just take the province of Stolp right here, vassalize the rest of them, and we'll have a border with the Teutons, who are going to be our second conquest war. However, if Wolgast has strong allies, and in my game it's Bohemia and Saxe-Lauenburg, so it may be a little bit tricky, we are going to try and declare on Stettin. Taking a look at Stettin in my game, they've also allied Bohemia, which is actually quite unlucky to tell you the truth. In most of your games, these guys won't have a strong ally such as Bohemia, but either way, since it's pretty much the same in my game, I'm gonna be declaring on Wolgast. So, if Wolgast is too powerful for you, try and fight Stettin. If you fight Wolgast, you're gonna take Stolp, vassalize the rest of them, and if you fight Stettin, you're gonna full annex them. But until you're ready to do that, it's time to chill a little bit. Now we can finally take burgher loans and build up our army. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Now after that's all done, as we can see, I've taken new burgher loans right here, so I am gonna be improving my nation a little bit right here. For that, I'm just gonna go ahead and hire the free company, and even though that does take us a bit over force limit, we are gonna take this main army right here and delete one infantry regiment from it, just like that. And now you're gonna want to check who would help you fight some of these guys right here. Let's check Wolgast in my game. So Poland, Mainz would help me in this, but we actually don't want to use up the favors with Poland that we're trying to get because we want their help in the war versus the Teutons. So what I need to do right here is curry favors with Mainz so I can call them into that war to help me out. What's very important right here is you want to get your war versus these guys done before Poland's truce with the Teutons runs out, which is December 1449. That is very important because as soon as Poland's truce with the Teutons runs out, that's when we're going to declare on the Teutons. If we don't declare ourselves and take the land we want, Poland will just declare by themselves, most likely, and they'll be taking stuff. So really, we want to control that. And once you're ready to declare your war on either of these two guys, it's time to get going. In preparation for my war right here, I've hired another mercenary company right here. This is not something you're going to have to do. You can take care of your first 2 or 3 wars with just these guys right here. But since I find Bohemia, I thought let's get some extra strength. So before this war, obviously, you're going to go ahead and raise army maintenance and activate forts. I am losing a lot more money here than you will be losing. You'll be down just like 1 or 2 ducats. I'm down 6 because of this extra merc company. No big deal. Then you're going to take your army right here and give both your ruler and heir military command. You can put whichever one you in charge you want. I'm actually going to put both of them in charge, one of the free company, one in the main army. And there we go. You are ready to declare. But first, we're going to go ahead and set some rivals. And at this point, you can rival the nation that you're fighting and everyone else. So I'm just going to rival Wolgast right here, the Teutons since we're going to be fighting them pretty soon, and Stettin because we are going to be fighting them as well. We didn't do this up until now because if we rivaled them right at the start, that may have provoked them into getting even stronger allies. As we can see in my game, that didn't really work out since they got a strong ally either way. But there we go. There's my declaration on Wolgast. I'm going to declare a conquest for Stolp and vassalize the rest of them. And I'm going to call in Köln and Mainz. And there we go. There's your first conquest war started. Some of you by now may have done a humiliation war, in which case you should have shown strength for 100 points in each category. And there we go, in my game, the war with Wolgast is done. I was able to peace out Bohemia relatively quickly because they focused on my ally Mainz. Unfortunately, they did make Mainz break the alliance with me, which is not something you want to happen, but I'd rather have this than them coming to fight me over here. And there we go, that war is done. Like I said, you are going to be taking Stolp and making the rest of Wolgast your vassal. We're only doing this to minimize aggressive expansion a little bit. Sure, if you're more experienced, you could definitely full annex Wolgast right here. I'm not against that, but let's just save a little bit of aggressive expansion by making them our vassal and taking all of their money. And there we go. That's your first war done. Either you did this or you full annexed Stettin. The reason we're doing this is we have a border with the Teutons, whether a maritime border with Danzig by taking these 2 provinces, which are coastal by the way, or a land border by taking Stolp right here. As we can see, Poland's truce with the Teutons has already run out, but luckily they haven't declared because they feel the Teutons are pretty powerful thanks to their alliance with Denmark. But now that that war right here is done, you will be able to take the Pomeranian succession if you did the same war that I did, which will give you permaclaims on West and East Prussia along with the Mittelmark area. There we go, just like that. These are the areas we got claims on. If you fought Stettin, you wouldn't have been able to take this mission right here, in which case, after you take over Stettin, you should immediately build a spy network, or during that war, you should be building a spy network on the Teutons, and after you're done with that, you should immediately claim the province of Danzig. And with that, we will have a CB on the Teutons either way, whether you took it through this mission right here, or whether you built it up manually. Now, as soon as this war is done right here, it's time to chill for just a little bit and reconsolidate a little, and then we're immediately going to be declaring on the Teutons if Poland is willing to help out. Now that war is done, I am ready to declare on the Teutons. Unfortunately, in my game though, they've also gotten a pretty strong ally just like Wolgast did, and they're allied to the nation of Denmark, which as we all know has Sweden, which is rebellious in this game, but nonetheless, and Norway as junior partners. So they are pretty powerful. I could declare on the Teutons right now just with the help of Poland because they do have Lithuania as a junior partner, or alternatively, I could curry a little bit of favors with Austria because they are willing to help out as well. Now, normally in this war, it's only going to be you and Poland and their subjects, and we really only care for 1 or 2 or 3 provinces right here in this first war, so it's not that bad. But because they have these many allies over here, one of which is Denmark and their subjects, I am going to chill for just a little bit and curry favors with Austria because it is pretty obvious in my game that Poland wouldn't declare on the Teutons themselves. So, no big deal, I am willing to wait a little bit. However, if they weren't allied to Denmark, you should declare as soon as Poland's truce with them has expired. And honestly, if you haven't declared on the Teutons and Poland does declare on them, I just recommend Alt F4ing or restarting or something like that because it is pretty important for us to declare on them rather than Poland. Whenever you have some spare money, it's not a bad idea to buy indulgence for your sins. This will help with papal influence generation. Now that everything is scored up and that I have 9 favors with Austria, I will be declaring my war versus the Teutons. Ideally, you do this a little earlier when the truce with Poland runs out, but if it's all chill like in my game right here, you could obviously do it later. Now, before this war, you are going to want to make sure to set these 2 provinces, Danzig and Königsberg, the most important ones that we need to form Prussia, as we can see, because we're probably only going to take these 2 provinces in our first war and then the rest of the Teutons in our second war versus them. So, whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare on the Teutons. You will need Poland for this war. I'll call in these 2 guys as well to help out with some small guys, and Austria soon once we get 10 favors only because of Denmark. Sure, it can be done only like this, even if Denmark is involved. The only reason I'm calling in Austria is to make things a little bit quicker. So, whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare for the conquest of Königsberg, because you will get the Danzig either way since you're standing right next to it, but you might not get the Königsberg first, and if Poland does get there first, they'll transfer occupation over to you since it is the province that you declared for. So there we go. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare on the Teutons. During this point, make sure to improve relations with outraged countries. And since we're making so little money from trade, what you can do is take your merchant that's in Krakow and put him in Lübeck and tell him to collect, and then take your guy from Vienna, put him in Saxony, tell him to collect, and once they're there, we're gonna tell them to establish communities. This will help with aggressive expansion. And now that I've white peaced Denmark, this war is done, and once your war with the Teutons is done as well, these are the 2 provinces that we're taking. As we can see, we can take a little bit more, but that might be a little too much aggressive expansion, and it's not like we're gonna get coalition, we're not, but it will slow down our wars with other guys that we want to do in the meantime while we're waiting for our truce with the Teutons to expire. So, in this first war versus the Teutonic Order, only take Danzig and Königsberg, no money, no war reps, nothing like that. We want our truce to be done with them as soon as possible. And that's your first war with the Teutons done. Right now, already at this point, in just about 5 or 10 years, depending on how long it took you, we already have all the necessary provinces to form the nation of Prussia. All we gotta do is be Protestant and wait for Admin Tech 10. So, now we're good. Now it's time to chill a little bit and continue our conquests elsewhere. As we can see, if we take a look at the mission tree right here, for this mission, we need 15 provinces in northern Germany. We'll get to that eventually, don't worry. For this mission right here, to get claims on these provinces that we need to conquer, basically Silesia and Lusatia, we actually need to conquer the provinces in Prussia first. It's kind of weirdly set up like this, but don't worry, it's not a big deal. In the meantime, we can chill a little bit and manually spy on some of these guys right here that are easy to fight. Just take a look at anyone around you, maybe Stettin in my game right here, Mecklenburg, Lüneburg, Magdeburg, whoever right here. We're gonna take a province or 2 from someone. And by this point, some of you may have already become the Holy Roman Emperor. That's not the case in my game. The first Austrian guy is still alive. Once you get this war done, for some of you this may happen. Poland might actually turn hostile and threaten to break the alliance with you like it's happening in my game right here because they want Danzig and Königsberg. But it's really not a big deal because we still ended up controlling their truce with the Teutons. The only reason we really called them into this first war, aside from their help of course if they have a strong ally, is for us to control Poland's truce with the Teutons. So now, even if Poland breaks their alliance with us, they still can't declare on the Teutons themselves and take the rest of these provinces that we want from them, because they also have a truce with the Teutons. So even if they break their alliance with you or they keep it, really it doesn't matter, because we are going to be breaking our alliance with Poland anyway after we take over all of the Teutonic Order. So don't worry if something like this happens. Aside from that, once this war is over, you should already be at Tech 4 in every category, and the Renaissance should have spawned, and in that case, you're gonna go ahead and activate the Encourage Development State Edict in your capital state of Mittelmark right here, and develop the province of Berlin up to 30 Deb. Right now, for me, it's at 12. I'm just gonna bump it up in every category because the points I have are pretty equal right here. Then once you're at 15 Dev, you can also go ahead and expand infrastructure to make it a little cheaper to dev, and then you can continue to push with whichever points category you have. Just push it up to 30 to speed up the spawning of the Renaissance and tick off the age objective for a large development city. Additionally, there's also a mission right here, Renovate Berlin, where we needed to have 25 dev, which obviously we'll get to, and we also need a church and a workshop. There we go, I just pushed it up to 30 in my game. After you do that, you can continue to dev a little bit if you really want the Renaissance ASAP. Alternatively, you can swap to advancement effort. And there we go, Poland broke their alliance with me. Like I said, this may happen for some of you. Even if it does, even if it doesn't, we're good. Once you do break your alliance with Poland, whether after the first or after the second Teuton War, then you should look to ally someone else that's pretty big, maybe like France, Castile, Muscovy, or someone like that. But even the Pope. That's what I'm gonna do right now, improve relations with the Pope a little bit. For your tier 2 government reform as Brandenburg, pretty much all of these options are super valid right here. Obviously, the classic strength and noble privileges is super powerful, plus 10% national manpower is great, but pretty soon we are gonna become the HRE Emperor and we'll gain a ton of manpower anyway, so maybe that's not that good. You could always curtail noble privileges for that plus 15% national attacks, which is actually super powerful in the first 50-ish years as Brandenburg or Prussia right here, since these provinces are pretty poor. We're not going to be making that much money from trade. You could go with this one to lean into the whole minus 20% fort discount thing, but that one's not that good. Compromise with the nobility is also great for no penalties from increased levies, and then noble officer corps is actually really strong at Prussia later on, specifically for the army tradition. Then again, you also have this one right here, which is HRE specific for an advisor discount and monthly favors growth. So pretty much all of these except for this one right here are pretty good. You won't make a mistake with either one of them, but keep in mind that you don't really need this because you're going to be HRE Emperor, but then again, you're going to stop being the HRE Emperor. Tax isn't that relevant later on in the game after about the first 50-ish years, so it's totally up to you. In my game right here, I'm going to go curtail noble privileges, even though by around the 1510s, 1520s, we won't really need it. Once you've cored up the provinces you took from the Teutons and about a year or two have passed and aggressive expansion has died down, it is time to continue with your conquest. At this point, ideally, you'd wrap up whoever you didn't fight out of Stettin or Wolgast. In my game, that's Stettin. However, if you still can't fight whoever is left over, you can try and fight some other minor nation over here that's around you, such as Mecklenburg, Lüneburg, Brunswick, Magdeburg, Anhalt, whoever is located right here. In my game, I am going to finish off Stettin right here, even though they're still allied to Bohemia, and it's going to be annoying. It was pretty easy piecing them out last time, so I think it'll be pretty easy piecing them out this time. So there we go, there's my conquest on Stettin right here. I'm going to call in Köln and the Palatinate. I have reallied Mainz at this point, and I think it's going to go pretty similarly to how it went versus Wolgast. So there we go, there's my declaration. About a year or two after you're done with the Teutons, fight whoever you can around you, ideally one of these two guys that you didn't fight earlier. Now that I've sieged down Prague, there's something else I can do. As you can see in my game, Poland and Bohemia have actually allied each other here, which is pretty annoying because Poland is someone we want to fight and Bohemia is someone we want to fight as well. So why not make our wars versus these guys easier? What I'm gonna do right now is make Bohemia end their alliance with Poland, just like that. Let's see if I can get war reps. No, I can't. So let's take a little bit of money, no big deal. And there we go, I've pieced them out. Look for something like this if you're anticipating a hurdle later on. And now that Stettin has unconditionally surrendered, I will be full annexing them and taking all of their money. In this war that you're doing in between the two Teuton wars, take 1 to 2 provinces max. At this point, enough time has passed to where I can annex Wolgast. If you did get them as a vassal, you should annex them as soon as you can, but make sure to give the nobles the integration policy first right here, so you don't lose any diplo rep once you do annex them. And there we go. Once you get admin tech 5, it will be time to choose your first idea group, and as Brandenburg and Prussia and maybe Germany later on, we want to lean into the whole super powerful army thing as much as possible. So that's why we're going to take pretty much all of the mill idea groups that are as powerful as we need them to be for our playthrough, and then the other ideas we're going to take, basically the other idea groups, are going to be ones that we have good policies with to buff up our army even more. For example, if we take offensive right here, we all know offensive is already super powerful and we definitely need it, but it also has some really nice policies, for example with innovative for the +1 leader siege and +10% siege ability. If we take quality ideas, we have a +5% discipline with economic, we have siege ability and morale damage with religious, we got +15% infantry combat ability with innovative, so that's what we're going for here. Really nice policies that will help out our army even more. And for your first one, I recommend picking up either offensive or quality right here. Sure, we're not going to use boats that much as Brandenburg, at least for now. Later, of course, we are going to want to establish some when we're a bit larger. We will need it to fight Denmark or whoever over here because we're going to be expanding some more. But aside from these boat things, quality ideas are super powerful. We're going to be getting lots of combat ability modifiers. We already have infantry combat from here, cav combat, the artillery combat, and the discipline, and obviously the policies that I already mentioned are super strong, +5% discipline with economic. We got some army tradition decay with humanist, for example, land leader file with expansion, not that we're gonna take expansion, but you get my point, and all of the ones I already mentioned. And of course, later on, we're going to be picking up the other ones too, offensive, defensive, quality, quantity, whatever you didn't pick up right now. So really, the order doesn't matter that much, even though some are better to have earlier on rather than others. For example, innovative, I do recommend it for your second idea group. Even though innovative, a lot of people would say isn't that powerful, it actually really is pretty good in my opinion, especially for all the advisor thingies and all of the policies we're gonna get. Now, if you're picking up innovative, it's best to do it as early as possible to take advantage of all the bonuses. Picking up innovative for like your 7th one or something like that isn't gonna be as useful as picking up for your 1st or 2nd one. But either way, more on that later. For now, open up with offensive or quality. I'm gonna go with quality in my game. After you've wrapped up your war versus whoever you were fighting here, it's time to chill until our truce with the Teutons is up, and then we want to pounce as soon as it's up, because if we're not allied with Poland, they're probably gonna want to declare at the same time. Make sure to lower autonomy wherever you can from time to time. And there we go, at the same time my truce with the Teutons has expired and I have annexed my vassal Wolgast. After you do that, after you take care of all of these provinces right here in the two Pomerania areas, you will be able to take the mission A Show of Strength, if you expanded there of course. If you took other provinces, you may have done that already, where we gain permaclaims on these provinces right here, which is somewhere we do want to expand later on. But once your truce with the Teutons is up, it is super important that you go ahead and hit them right away. Now, if you're allied to Poland and if you're calling them into this war, they're gonna want to siege down a bunch of these provinces right here. Even though we have claims on them, they won't transfer occupation over to us. So if you're calling in Poland into this war, make sure to split your army in about 6 stacks right here, so you can send all of those stacks to all of these provinces over here. You get to them first and you siege them down instead of Poland. So that will be something like this. I'd send this 5 stack like right here, and then a couple of these guys all around these provinces in order to get there before Poland. I don't have that problem since I'm not calling in Poland, and if you're allied to Poland, you should call them in, by the way. You should call them into this war, and you can give them Kolm, for example, if you want to. But I'm not, so it's no big deal. And there we go. There's my second declaration on the Teutons. You're going to do the same as soon as your truce with them is up, and in this second war, we are going to full annex, or almost full annex them. I'm going to declare for Marienburg, and I'm going to call in all of these guys right here because Denmark are once again going to join. And there we go. There's your second war with the Teutons started. And in my game, Poland just declared their war versus the Teutons as expected if you aren't allied to them. And this is exactly what I was talking about. As you can see, I've put an army in every single province that I'm interested in. Even though these 0.8 guys right here can't siege Memel, I'm still there first, which means Poland won't be able to siege it down. So that's why I recommend doing exactly this right here. If Poland gets Kolm right here, I really don't care. I'm not interested in that province for now anyway. We're interested in only the provinces in West and East Prussia. And once your war with the Teutons is done, the second one, of course, what I recommend taking is these provinces right here. As we can see, we're almost full annexing the Teutons. If Poland's in this war, you could give them Kolm. If not, they're still gonna end up taking it, like in my case right here. But look at this aggressive expansion. It's 54.3 in my game. That's why I recommended not doing too much before we get this war done, because if you've been conquering a lot by now, you will get coalition after full annexing or almost full annexing the Teutons in this second war right here. So that's why we took a little advantage with that vassalization of Wolgast. That's why we only fought Stettin right here for just 2 provinces. If you fought someone else, that's why I recommended 1 to 2 provinces, because in this war we're getting quite a lot of aggressive expansion, and in our next wars we'll also be getting quite a lot because we'll be taking some super valuable provinces over from Bohemia or some of these guys right here. But either way, with all of that aside, there's your second war with the Teutons done. You've either full annexed them now or left them alive in this one province that we're not interested in. At this point, I'm also going to take all of their money. No need for war reps since they're not going to exist. And there we go. That's our second war with the Teutons done. Once you wrap that up, you will be able to take the mission Prussian expansion right here, where we gain Prussian as an accepted culture, and every province in East and West Prussia will receive 1 random dev. We'll also gain some trade power in the Baltic Sea, along with permaclaims on Silesia and Lusatia. These provinces right here that we do want to conquer relatively soon. After this, of course, make sure to improve relations with outraged countries, stat. During peacetime, of course, you should move on with construction and improving your economy. It's completely normal to still be losing money as Brandenburg at this point, don't worry about it. But I just took out a regular loan to pay off the final of my old burger loans, so I took some new burger loans, and once you do that, once you have a little bit of cash, start up by building marketplaces in a center of trade and estuary provinces like Berlin, Stettin, Danzig, Königsberg right here. After that, you can move on with some churches and workshops. Of course, turn off your forts and lower army maintenance to save some money as well. In my game right here, Ladislaus Posthumus was elected HRE Emperor, so I didn't get the emperorship the first time around. But I am pretty confident that we'll get it as soon as this guy dies. Like I said at the start of the video, after the first or after the second Austrian guy dies is about when you should get it, and you'll keep it until you get to form Prussia. Of course, after you conquer everything from the Teutons over here, make sure to full state it, full core it, and lower autonomy. And there we go, now we're making some real money. And by the way, as Brandenburg, you can get a very nice construction discount right at the beginning of the game, just with our traditions, embracing the Renaissance, and then activating this right here. As we can see, a church is only 71 ducats. After chilling for a little bit after your Teuton war and waiting for your aggressive expansion to die down, it's time to continue our wars, and the most important one you want to do after that is our first war versus Bohemia right here. Now, as you can see, we've gotten a bunch of claims on Silesia and Lusatia, and those are definitely all provinces that we want to take, but a lot of these are super high dev and very valuable, so we won't be able to do that in one war. So that's why I'm recommending declaring on Bohemia as early as possible, so you take 4 provinces now, wait for aggressive expansion to die down, and then hit them for the other 4 provinces later. There we go. I'm going to declare on Bohemia for example, this province right here, since it is pretty close, and even Austria will help out even though they're the HRE Emperor, so why not call them in and make things a little bit easier. And there we go. There's my declaration on Bohemia. Ideally, you do this after you wrap up the Teutons. However, if they're too strong for you to fight or something like that, you could always go for some of these guys right here that we have claims on. Now, for your tier 3 government reform, you also have a couple of options. You could go centralized monarchical bureaucracy. You already know why it's good. You could also go expand a royal court. That one's pretty nice as well. But you could also go representatives of the crown right here. Now, you may have noticed that we don't actually have any vassals or marches right now, but later, after we grow a little bit bigger in this region and after we're elected HRE Emperor, you will be able to pick up a lot of the HRE 1 province minors as vassals diplomatically simply through this interaction right here. So then you could definitely find it useful, even though we're not going to be really keeping those guys around. Instead, we're going to annex them as soon as we can. So those are your 3 options right here in my opinion. Any one of these 3 will do. In my game, I'm going to go expanded royal court. For your first stage ability, you should get justified wars. And once you have about 50-ish war score versus Bohemia, you're good to go ahead and peace out. Since there's 8 provinces, you want to take about half. The total aggressive expansion for these, as we can see, is about 76 right here. So you'd want to ideally take half of that, but also you may look into taking these 4 provinces right here in order to sort of block off maybe Poland from fighting them, but it's totally up to you since we'll be fighting Poland anyway, and we can just make them give those provinces to us later on. So get 4 provinces, whichever 4 you want to, out of these 8 right here in Silesia and Lusatia. I'm personally gonna go for these 4 in my game. No money, no war apps, we want this truce to be pretty short. And there we go, that's your first war with Bohemia done. In our next war, we'll take care of the rest of the provinces that we have claims on. After we get done with this, it's time to chill a bit and either wait for the truce with Bohemia to expire if your aggressive expansion is super high, or in the meantime, you could fight some of these guys right here. If you're already HRE Emperor, you should look into diplo-vassalizing some HRE 1 province minors. After you build a workshop and a church and develop Berlin, obviously you did that way earlier, you will be able to take the mission Renovate Berlin, where we gain some monthly splendor and monthly admin points until Berlin is sieged down down or conquered, so make sure to not let it get sieged down. Now at this point, the Burgundian succession just happened as Scotland got it in my game, which of course reminded me to remind you guys that you could go for this anytime you want to, especially if you're the HRE Emperor. You'll have a higher chance of getting it then too. If you're interested at all in whatever Burgundy owns or expanding that way, you could definitely go for it. I personally wasn't interested in my game. That's not something I usually do in my Brandenburg, Prussia, Germany playthroughs or whatever, but if you guys are up for it, you can definitely try and get it. It should be pretty easy to get, especially if you become the HRE Emperor. Another mission you can passively do whenever you have some spare points is this mission right here, develop Königsberg, which needs us to have 30 dev in that province over there, and if we take it while we have 25 universities, we'll experience a golden era without expanding our own during the duration of our ruler's life, but that's pretty much way later in the game, so I don't think you really need to wait until you have 25 universities to take this mission. But whenever you have some extra points, like I have some extra Diplo points right now, go ahead and develop Königsberg up a little bit. It is pretty nice to dev since it does have a really good trade good in it as well. So I'm just gonna activate Encourage Dev right here and sink a couple of points in there. Make sure to seize land whenever your estates are above 50 loyalty. And in my game, I have just been elected the HRE Emperor. As we can see, there we go. I voted for myself, and then these 3 guys voted for me, or maybe just these 2 guys, I can't tell right now, even though Cologne is technically voting for us. And there we go. That's a pretty normal time frame to become the HRE Emperor. Like I said at the start, either you did it after the second or the first Austrian guy died, which is very nice. And there we go. Now, ideally, you'd keep a hold of the emperorship until it's time to form Prussia, because as we all know, to form Prussia, you do need to be Protestant, but you can't be Protestant and be the HRE Emperor. So it's going to be a little tricky maneuvering that later on, especially regarding governing capacity, but we are going to be able to deal with it, so no worries. There we go. After you become elected the HRE Emperor, you will be able to take the mission Charlemagne's Legacy, which gives us Diplo Rep. Now that I've become the HRE Emperor, I'm gonna take a look at this list of nations that would technically accept vassalization and look at all of these guys that would accept being diplo vassalized by us. So that's why I recommended, holding off on expanding into some of these HRE 1 province minors over here, because realistically we can get them for free without getting any aggressive expansion, and we can save that aggressive expansion for fighting the big guys. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna attempt to diplo vassalize at least a couple of these guys right here. And like I said earlier, we're gonna annex them as soon as we can if we border them. For example, if I diplo vassalize Anhalt right here, as soon as 10 years pass, I'll annex them. But if East Frisia is our vassal and we don't border them just yet, I won't be annexing them, and I'll only leave them around to annex them after I gain a border with them. So there we go. Anhalt is actually a pretty good choice. They're allied to Bohemia too. My truce with them is going to expire pretty soon, and we're going to have to fight them again, so why not diplo-vassalize them now? Of course, to diplo-vassalize these guys, you should ally them, guarantee them, royal marry them, send them a gift, offer them mill access. If you're the emperor, you can bestow imperial grace, all of these things. And by the way, speaking of the emperorship, when becoming the HRE emperor as Brandenburg right here, you don't really need to focus on any of these things right here. That's not why we're the HRE emperor. The only reason we're doing this is so we're a little more powerful, basically overinflate ourselves with the economy and with the manpower and the force limit and stuff like that too. And why worry about passing all of these things when later we're either way gonna stop being the HRE emperor, at least for a while. And there we go. There's my first diplo-vassalization. Sure, this is gonna take us over a relations limit, but no worries. Now I'm gonna go for Mecklenburg. They would accept, and they have 2 cores over here that Lübeck owns, which is super nice. And they're right next to us, which means we'll be able to annex them as soon as 10 years pass. And just like that, there's Mecklenburg as well, becoming our vassal diplomatically. Once you pick up 2 of these guys, you can definitely give the nobles strong duchies. There's Lüneburg as well. This time they have 2 provinces. There's Verden as well, another 2-province nation, and look how many more nations would accept. We got Dithmarschen, Oldenburg, Bayreuth, East Frisia, Gotland too, even though we're not really interested in them. So all of these guys are super easy to get. But let's not go way over relations limit, because we will be able to get them whenever we want pretty much. Right now I can pass the first imperial reform. Austria doesn't seem to have done that, so I'll do it. And now our truce with Bohemia has expired. It's time to hit them again. In the meantime, you should have focused on diplo-vassalizing some guys up here and working on the economy. Of course, the diplo-vassalization is only if you're the HRE emperor. But it is time to declare on Bohemia again. They have re-allied Poland at this point, which is kind of annoying in my game, since Poland is actually the nation we want to go for after we take care of Bohemia. But it's no big deal. In this war, I'll peace out Poland, make them break their alliance with Bohemia, and we can fight them later. So I'm going to declare for whatever province right here. It really doesn't matter, since we're going to be taking the rest, the ones that we didn't take earlier. And there we go. I'll call Austria, Cologne, and the Pope. This is going to be a pretty annoying war, since Poland and Lithuania are pretty strong, but hopefully I can knock them out pretty quickly. And there we go. That's your next war with Bohemia started. And now that the war with Bohemia is done, it was pretty annoying because Poland was in it, of course. It is time to peace out. And in the second war, just take the other provinces that you didn't take in the first one. Now you can go ahead and humiliate them, get war reps, get money, whatever you want to. Because really, if you're doing that sort of roleplay type scenario, you don't really care about any of this over here. Of course, if you're going for a whatever kind of playthrough and you don't care about, you know, maybe some borders or whatever like that, you can definitely go for the Bohemian gold mine as well over here in Cheb too. But in my playthrough, this is about enough. I'm also going to humiliate them and get war reps and all of their money. And there we go. That's your second war with Bohemia done. And in just 2 wars, you've wrapped up Lusatia and Silesia, super wealthy areas right here. And after that, you'll be able to take the mission Conquer Silesia, where promoting a culture reduces our aggressive expansion by 3. We lose autonomy in Silesia, and we gain permaclaims on these 2 areas that Poland owns right here. Now it's once again time to go back home and chill a little bit, work on the economy, focus on diplo-vassalizing some other nations, if you're the emperor of course, and annexing any guys that you border if enough time has passed. Right now I've also hit admin deck 7, and once you hit admin deck 7, it will be time for your second idea group. What I recommend the most right here is innovative ideas. Like I said earlier, some people consider these ideas weak. I still think they're really strong for a Brandenburg Prussia playthrough because of the infantry combat ability that we're gonna get with quality, with the siege ability and leader siege with offensive ideas, various other policies, and taking these early on is pretty great. We'll have a really strong monarch point generation with all of the cheaper advisors. The tech discount is great, the monthly war exhaustion and splendor is great, the +1 free policies, all of this is excellent. So I do recommend innovative ideas, specifically mostly for the bonuses that we're going to get with other idea groups. If you still think innovative sucks, then in that case I recommend going with economic. I'm going to go with innovative. Of course, as you grow bigger, more nations will be willing to accept that whole diplo-vassalization thing. So anyone in the HRE or pretty much whatever borders you're going with that's willing to accept, definitely go ahead and diplo-vassalize them. A new champion of the joust is always nice, even though it might not always be worth it. This is going to tank our legitimacy quite a lot, but let's see it for the purposes of this video. And that guy was actually worth it quite a lot. 3 siege, 5-4, very nice right there. Of course, in just about 2 or 3 decades, generals like this are going to become completely normal, and every single role you do, you'll get generals like this, especially later on as Prussia. For your tier 4 government reform, you have a couple of options. This one is pretty good all the way up until you become Protestant, and it's not bad when you're Protestant either, but you do also have a couple of options. You could expand temple rights. It's really nice if you have a lot of churches especially, but if not, you could always maintain the balance of power. So either of these 3 for now. Later, of course, when you flip Protestant, you could swap to something else. I'm gonna go ahead and choose expand temple rights. After you wrap up Bohemia, you need to chill a little bit and work on doing this before we get ready to fight Poland. Because I have a truce with Poland still, I'm gonna wait a little more. But that's pretty much our next war. We're going to be taking hopefully all of these provinces right here. While I was chilling, I diplo-vassalized a couple of more nations. I took care of Dithmarschen, Oldenburg, and East Frisia right here. So right now, as we can see, I have about 7 vassals, but we're getting ready to annex the ones that we vassalized first pretty soon. As we can see, we can do Anhalt in just a couple of months right here. And right now, I'm preparing to do a little mini war versus Lubeck just to take back these Mecklenburg provinces before we can annex them. And then I'll get to Poland. Right now, I even have the option to ally the Ottomans, which I noticed after they requested some maps from me. Now, I actually am gonna accept this, even though it's not something you really need at all. It would be very nice to have their help versus Poland right here, because as we can see, they're rivaled, and they're most likely willing to help out. Let's see. Well, maybe not, because they're in debt. But listen, an alliance like this never hurts. Now, sooner or later, once you become a great power and either rival or ally a great power, you'll be able to take the mission The Balance of Power. It gives us 25 power projection and some bonuses to the Brandenburg Gate Monument. And right now, I'm going to declare on Lubeck to take back Mecklenburg's cores, and I might also take this province, which I have a claim on myself. I am calling in some minor guys to help me out. This is something you can also do if you end up vassalizing someone that has lost some provinces. And now that we're pretty much done with Lubeck, let's give these 2 provinces back to Mecklenburg. As we can see, no risk of a coalition, only 3 aggressive expansion, and I am going to take this 1 province right here for myself. Let's see what happens if we take Lubeck. That's a bit too much, so we'll deal with it later. And there we go. That's my little mini war with these guys done. Right now, I'm just going to annex some vassals that I started bordering initially, like Anhalt, for example. Before you do that, make sure you have given out the nobility integration policy right here. And something else you might have just noticed in the nobles right here is this unique privilege, consolidated noble contracts, which gives us minus 10% CCR. However, the nobles are exempt from seized land. Now, I just recently got more than 30% crown land, and you should give the nobles this privilege only after you've gotten back up to above 30% crown land, like me, for example, right now. I've just annexed Anhalt, and I'm gonna start annexing Mecklenburg as well. Now that we've chilled a bit, focused on our economy, vassalized someone else, reconquered some cores, my truce with Poland is finally up, and it's a perfect time because they're in this other big war as well, so I am ready to pounce on them. Once you're ready to hit Poland too, you can go ahead and declare these are the provinces that we're focusing on in these two areas right here. The Ottomans still wouldn't help me because of debt and favors, so I'm just gonna call in Austria and some small guys, and obviously my subjects will come in as well. This should be a little easier now rather than earlier when we fought them versus Bohemia. So there we go. I'll just declare for this province right here, for example, and that's our war with Poland started. Ideally, you would be able to take care of all of these provinces in a single war, but if you can't, if it's too much aggressive expansion, don't worry, we'll deal with it later. Whenever you get your nobles loyalty above 60, you'll be able to take this mission right here. Definitely go ahead and take it. And now that Poland has been absolutely crushed, they're dying to the Ottomans and to Hungary as well, it is time to peace out. These are the provinces you want right here specifically, only the ones that we got claims on. There's really no need to take anything more from Poland now, and if you're planning to expand, sure, you could push further into the Baltic or into the Krakow trade node right here. But in this first conquest war that we're doing, or maybe even only one that we're doing with them so far, this is about enough. You can also get war reps and money if you want to. As we can see, quite a lot of aggressive expansion, but not that bad since they're a completely different culture group to some of these guys right here that are mad. And we really haven't been doing that much wars in the HRE either. All of these are diplo-vassalizations up here. And that's your war with Poland done. After you take care of these provinces, you will be able to take the mission Conquer Greater Poland, which in the way that we did it will give me plus 10% trade efficiency and plus 1 diplo rep. The alternative way is if we have more than 200 dev in the region of Poland and then we take this mission, we'll gain access to the Polish Crown Splendor ability during the Age of Reformation. You can do it in whichever way you want to. I'm gonna take this mission now to show it off, of course, but the other way may be a little bit better. Right now we're making really good money. I got some money in the bank, already paid off a bunch of old burger loans. Once again, I'm gonna go ahead and take new burger loans. We're always focusing on the economy at every point in the game. As we can see, all of the relevant marketplaces have been built. Let's go into the production buildings now and build them in all of the high value trade good provinces. Even though these don't give us that much right now, later they'll give us more because we'll be lowering autonomy, we'll be deving them up with extra points. So that's why we're doing that. Churches in all of the provinces that give us more than 0.1 ducats income. And later on, of course, once we hit Admin Tech 8, courthouses are going to be super important because look at this. Right now I'm the Emperor, right? And I have 315 out of 600 gov cap. But once we flip to Protestant, we'll actually go back to being a duchy and we'll only have 200 governing capacity. So we'll be way over. That's really the main problem that you're gonna face when you're gonna stop being the HRE Emperor when you flip Protestant in order to form Prussia. So that's why we wanna mitigate it as much as possible by building as many courthouses as we can once we unlock them. With this extra cash that I have right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and upgrade some centers of trade, like the one in Berlin, for example. Let's do the one in Danzig. Let's do the one in Königsberg, and so on. Also, whenever you have some spare money, I do recommend building up some light ships right here to protect trade in the Lubeck and Baltic Sea trade node. Right now, our merchants are still, establishing communities right here for the aggressive expansion, but pretty soon, once we take over, I would say most of northern Germany, we'll put these guys back in charge of money making. Now, I'm gonna be annexing Lüneburg as well. In the meantime, I'm just dealing with some separatists, working on the economy, waiting for aggressive expansion to chill a little bit before we fight some of these guys right here that we have claims on, but that we can't diplo-vassalize. That would normally be some of the Hansa guys right here, the free city guys, such as Hamburg and Bremen, maybe Goslar up here, and because they're free cities and because we're the Emperor, remember that we do have to revoke their free city status before we declare on them, otherwise it would be very bad. So make sure to do that. And when you're anticipating later on of stopping being the HRE Emperor, basically before you flip Protestant, make sure to revoke the free city status of pretty much all of these guys up to here somewhere. You can leave these guys down here alive and the next Emperor will give back that free city status to some of them, but it doesn't hurt to try. And in my game, the Protestant Reformation has just spawned over in Hesse right here. In your game, it should spawn anywhere from the 1490s, usually to the 1520s, and here you have a couple of options. Basically, you can go ahead and flip to Protestant immediately because you will be able to do that, and because you're one of the first nations to convert, you will spawn a Protestant Center of Reformation, which is very nice. However, at this point, we still don't have Admin Tech 10, and in fact, we're quite a bit off. So you'll be Protestant, not the Emperor, and you'll just be waiting around for Admin Tech 10 to form Prussia. What I instead recommend doing is getting to Admin Tech 10 first, then flipping to Protestant, and then forming Prussia. So as tempting as it may be to flip to Protestant as soon as possible, don't do it just yet because we'll really encounter quite a few problems because we're this large and we won't be the HRE Emperor. We want to spam those courthouses first with Admin Tech 8. So don't worry about when Protestantism spawns. Right now I've revoked the free city status of Hamburg, Bremen, and Goslar, the nearest free cities to us that will fight the earliest. If you care about getting more imperial authority, you could always of course give a free city status to someone else, like Millhouse for example, that's all the way down here, that we won't fight that soon. But since, like I said, we don't really care about any of this, we just want the bonuses, there's completely no need to do it. Now that I've annexed Lüneburg over here, it's time to move on with my next war versus some of these guys that we can't diplo-vassalize, such as Hamburg, for example, a very, very valuable province, and we do want to take care of these Hansa guys up here pretty soon, and that's Bremen, Hamburg, and Lübeck. It'll be Hamburg first in my game right here. And now that we've taken care of Hamburg, we're gonna full annex them. Be careful with some of these Hansa guys, that they do have a really high dev in their provinces usually, so if you're not careful with aggressive expansion, you could end up in a mess. But for me, this war is done. This is what I was talking about when I said generals earlier on. This is a guy that I rolled randomly. 4343. I just got Admin Tech 8 in my game, and this is exactly what I was talking about when I said we need to build courthouses. Right now, I'm just going to take out a regular loan right here to go pay off this final burger loan. Then I'm going to go ahead and take new burger loans just like that. And now we're going to use all of this money to spam courthouses as soon as possible. Let me just see how much it costs to embrace colonialism. A little bit expensive for now, so let's wait. No big deal, and let's just go ahead and start construction on these thingies right here, just like that. As soon as you unlock them, all of the money you have, you're going to use to build them in every single province, and then we'll go back to focusing on the economy, building different buildings, and upgrading centers of trade. Once there's not a lot of other nations left in Saxony and Lübeck, you can tell these merchants to do something else. For example, I'm going to go ahead and collect in the Baltic right here. The whole trade setup over here is pretty wonky until you expand quite a lot, so don't worry too much about these things. And now that I've chilled a bit, I'll be continuing with my wars by declaring on Saxony right here, specifically for these two provinces that we have claims on. They're annoying once again because they've allied Poland. It seems that Poland is allying everyone I want to fight, but Poland have lost out quite a bit to me, to the Ottomans, and to Muscovy right here, which does make this war pretty easy. I'm going to call in Austria and these guys just to make things a little faster, even though we don't really need anyone's help. For your Tier 5 government reform, aside from the usual options right here, we do have another semi-unique Tier 5 government reform right here, the General War Commissariat, which right now only gives us 0.5 yearly army tradition and a very nice minus 10% militech discount, but later when we're Prussia and when we have militarization, we'll also gain plus 0.05 militarization of state, monthly early Prussian military society plus 0.05, the next tier plus 0.1, and then the final tier plus 0.12, which makes it super strong. It's not bad right now either, especially for the army tradition and militech discount, so I recommend taking it even though you're not Prussia just yet. And now that this war with Saxony is done, I'll only be taking the two provinces that we have claims on. Some of these other provinces they have are super valuable, but don't worry, we'll get there when we get there. And that's my war with Saxony for now, done. Probably in your game, you would have taken this from Magdeburg, but either way, once you expand over in this region a little bit, you will be able to take the mission Conquer Lower Saxony, which gives us some very nice bonuses when developing Saxon or Lower Saxon provinces, which is going to be quite a lot of our dev, along with the monthly war exhaustion and various permaclaims on these areas right here. As you can see, the way the game guides us to expand is sort of the way we naturally want to expand anyway. When you get the event Prospering Times, make sure to select the second option right here, which pretty much creates a level 3 center of trade. And by around the time the Age of Reformation rolls around, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Brandenburg and started following along with our very nice mission tree right here by waiting for the Fate of Neumark event, where the Teutons agreed to sell us these two provinces. After that, you fought either Wolgast or Stettin in order to gain a border, whether a land border or a sea border with the Teutons right here. Fought the Teutons once for Danzig and Königsberg, the most important provinces that we need in order to form Prussia. Took them out completely in your second war, and after that, it was slow and steady expansion in these other regions over there, fighting a couple of wars versus Bohemia to get Lusatia and Silesia, finishing off some other guys up here that we got claims on originally or that we didn't get claims on, like Mecklenburg, and then after becoming the HRE Emperor, which you definitely should have, just like in my game right here, whether after the first or second Austrian guy dies, you could have diplo-vassalized a bunch of nations over here, and of course there's always more ready to be diplo-vassalized, so you can definitely save that aggressive expansion for when fighting big guys over here by not fighting these small guys and just diplo-vassalizing them. And after wrapping up Bohemia right here, you should should have taken care of Poland and taken care of these two areas right here that we got claims on. It may not seem like much, but since we're located in the HRE and there are some high def provinces over here that we need to conquer, especially ones from the Teutons, this is a very nice expansion for the first age in EU4 by the time the Age of Reformation rolls around. Now, obviously, by this point, we haven't only been focusing on conquering these various nations over here in the east and diplo-vassalizing the guys in the west, even though we start off with a pretty weak economy as Brandenburg. After taking care of the entirety of the Teutons, you shouldn't have had any problems with your economy, and you should have really started with your construction boom. I'm going to show off what I've built in my game so far, and you should look to have built something similar in your game. These are all the marketplaces that I've built in all the center of trade and estuary provinces. As you can see, obviously, once you get admin tech 8, you need to spam courthouses in literally every single province, because like I said earlier, once you stop being the HRE Emperor, governing capacity is going to become a real problem. Right now we're at 333 out of 700, and that's with this many courthouses built. So realistically, we're at 400 and something over here, but later when you swap back to a duchy, you'll end up at 200 governing capacity and you'll end up being over. So you definitely need to find a way to mitigate that. Maybe you can leave the HRE at that point if you don't want to become the HRE Emperor again after forcing Protestant to become the official faith. But either way, you're gonna have to find a way to deal with that. These are all the workshops that I've built in a bunch of high-value trade good provinces. Not a lot of them located over here, but there is a decent number. As we can see, there are still some I can continue building over here. A bunch of churches in a lot of provinces. There we go. These are all ones that I would build after this. A couple of army buildings here and there, and that's pretty much it. Later, of course, you'll roll around with the manufactories in the high-value trade good provinces. And obviously, I've upgraded some centers of trade. The most important ones you want to get done are Berlin, Danzig, and Königsberg right here in order to gain a nice control over in the Baltic trade node and in Saxony as well. So that is the economic part of the game, and as expected, you will be using some points right here to develop eventually if you end up maxing out or are close to maxing out. And after this point, you'll continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. You'll continue to follow along with this very nice Brandenburg/Prussia mission tree right here. Some of these missions right here will give you further claims on the northern portion of Germany. As we can see, once you take over Ansbach, you will gain further claims on sort of these areas right here, because as we all know, Ansbach also starts off with the Hohenzollerns in charge, which I've almost lost, by the way, because I have a Habsburg heir. So you may end up getting those guys as a junior partner or whatnot. Then you can expand over here in the early game as well. I tend not to do that since there's really no need. I think you'll just get here when you get here, and then you'll gain further claims on this. Now, these aren't the only missions you need to focus. We got this other branch right here, which gives us further claims on the rest of Germany, and then we have this little small development-ish sort of branch that I like to call right here, focused on the internal things in your nation. A very short but very sweet mission tree. It'll definitely be easy to complete all of these missions, except for maybe this one, the trade in Canton one, which I don't even really recommend going for. And then later on, of course, if you want to, after you end up forming Prussia, you could definitely go for forming Germany. Now, speaking of forming Prussia, you can do that at Admin Tech 10, as you all know, but you do need to be not Catholic, basically Protestant, Reformed, Hussite, or Anglican. The religion I recommend for Prussia is Protestant. So, even though, like I mentioned earlier, Protestantism will roll around earlier, there is no need to flip to Protestant early so you gain a center of reformation. Instead, just wait until you get to Admin Tech 10, then flip Protestant, and then you're gonna form Prussia. No need to do it ahead of time, because you will stop being the HRE Emperor, and we really do want to use the HRE Emperor bonuses in this early portion of the game to help us take down some of these more powerful guys than us at that point, such as Poland and Bohemia. But once you're around this big, you'll have no problems taking on anyone. You're buffing up your army quality significantly, and it will get even more powerful. As for expansion, I know a lot of you like to do the historical, German Empire borders and whatnot, which is sort of looking like this over here, but that's completely, role play type scenario, and you can honestly do whatever you want. If you're not going for sort of the German Empire-ish borders, I definitely recommend taking down North Germany, South Germany, the Low Countries, the Baltic, Poland. So sort of in this Central Europe region is where you want to expand. As you all know, Prussia does have quite a few governing capacity problems, which is sort of, forcing you to play not that wide. You really don't want to get that big. The game sort of tries to prevent that. But if you want to expand even more, definitely go for forming Germany. They have been updated in this latest patch as well. And as we all know, their mission tree is super, super awesome, giving you claims on basically the entirety of Europe. As Brandenburg and later Prussia, we do have some great projects here that we're definitely going to take advantage of, such as the Brandenburg Gate right here, which is very nice for a militarized playthrough at tier 3 and pretty much any tier. So once you, finish the construction of the buildings and whatnot, definitely stack some cash to upgrade the Brandenburg Gate. Then we also have the Malbork Castle right here in Marienburg, which is pretty nice. Once again, for a military playthrough, definitely upgrade this one, but focus on the Brandenburg Gate as well. And then you have some other ones right here that you'll take advantage of, like the Cologne Cathedral, the Ulm Minster, and maybe if you expand this for the Ambrose Castle over in Intal. But those are pretty much some of the monuments that you'll definitely get to use. This is what we took for our first two idea groups, quality and innovative. Like I said at the start of the video, you want to take pretty much all of the important military ideas, such as quality, offensive, defensive, maybe even quantity if your army isn't that big and you want to make it bigger. But if you're satisfied with the army size, then you should definitely go for aristocratic. So all of these right here need to be mil idea groups: quality, offensive, defensive, and then aristo or quantity. The choice is totally up to you. And as for these other ideas right here, I recommend taking ones that will mesh very well with the military idea groups that we've taken. That's our primary focus. So innovative, even though it's really not that powerful, as many of you know, it does give us very nice policies. Then I recommend taking economic as well. That has a really nice policy thingy as well. Then I recommend trade as well. And after that, maybe something like court or infrastructure for internal development. And once again, some very nice policies. So make sure to pick up all mil idea groups, and then these other ones are the ones that mesh very well with it. This is what we took for our first 5 government reforms. Obviously, later on, you'll be swapping to a different tier 1 government reform once you form Prussia and gain access to the militarization mechanic, but everything else right here is seeming legit. For tier 6, I recommend taking aristocratic court if you're still playing with these subjects and diplo-vassalizing guys. Otherwise, you could go for royal decree after absolutism comes around. For tier 7, I recommend meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, I recommend embracing the economic theory. For tier 9, I recommend the 6 books of the Republic, or if you're blobbing out quite a lot, I recommend the social contract so you don't have to worry about converting provinces. And then for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them are really good. Take whichever one you want. At that point in the game, you won't make a mistake with either one of them. And like I said, by around the time the Age of Reformation rolls around, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Game Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Brandenburg from this state forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.